Carrier from the Johnson City Police Department. And if you'll stand for that and remain standing for the pledge.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Ms. Lyles, Mr. Trivett, thank you for the opportunity this evening to lead the invocation. Our dear Heavenly Father, Lord, tonight we want to come to you thanking you for your love and your goodness, your mercy to us, Lord Jesus. Father, thank you that you've given us the opportunity to live in this great country, Father, where we have the freedoms that we have. Also to live in this great city, Lord Jesus, that we don't take for granted. You've been good to us. But now tonight, Father, we'd ask that you give wisdom to our commissioners as they go about the business of the city. Father, we know that you've told us that if we lack wisdom, Father, to ask, and you'll be happy to provide it to us. So therefore tonight, Lord Jesus, we'd ask that your hand will be upon our commissioners. Give them wisdom as they make these crucial decisions for our city. And Lord Jesus, with the understanding that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and we want to acknowledge that. But thank you for all that you've done for us, Father, and for your love and goodness. And we pray and ask all of these things now in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Trivett.
Mayor, your next order of business is selection of a mayor.
Mayor, may I say something first before we actually get into nominations? And this is for the public. We have a charter that was amended in 1938, I believe, and that's the guidelines for the city of Johnson City. One of the parts of that charter is that every 2 years when we have an election, that we select from within the 5 commissioners a mayor and a vice mayor, and tonight is that night. We don't have a at-large publicly elected mayor like some cities do. Kingsport does, Irwin, Elizabethton. But ours is within, and this is following the order of the charter. Our precedent has been that each 2 years we appoint someone within the commission board to fill those roles, and that's what we're going to be doing tonight. And so we've rotated those responsibilities among all of us. I was mayor in 2019 and 2020. 2020 was one of those good challenging years. There was not a whole lot of ceremonial things during 2020, if y'all remember, and it was a tough year. But tonight, this is what we're doing, and it's an opportunity for others to be able to step into the role of mayor and vice mayor.
If I could add to that, I think I want to acknowledge the effort and time Mayor Fowler has put in over the last 2 years. Few people can appreciate the time commitment than those who have served in that role. And I had the opportunity to serve as mayor in 21 and 22, and I never spent 2 consecutive hours at my desk for 2 years. It is a very time-consuming obligation, and it's one that I think is often underestimated. And the role is essentially the chair of the commission. And so the mayor has no special powers or authorities beyond the other 4 commissioners. And so I think sometimes the public looks at the mayor and thinks they have some outsized ability to affect outcomes, but they're really one of 5. And I want to acknowledge Mayor Fowler's considerable investment of time and energy, and it's most appreciated. With that said, I would like to enter a motion to elect in absentia Commissioner Hunter, who is on his way here from the airport, to serve as the chair of the commission for this term.
Any other nominations? All right, I will close the nominations.
Do we have to have a second? Yeah.
Do we need a second?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not? I'll second.
All right.
Second that.
We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right.
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Cox?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Fowler?
No.
Mayor Fowler, before we go on to the next one, from city administration and from staff, there was something I would like to present to you for your term as being the mayor over the past 2 years. It's been a pleasure from all the staff and all the administration to be able to work with you and to help you along as you've done these ceremonial presentations, the speeches that you've had to give, the public appearances that you've had to make. You've represented Johnson City very well, and we're very appreciative of that and have enjoyed that time. So as a token of our appreciation, we have a small gift of appreciation for you that's got your picture and all this on there. Thanking you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Now, the next order of business is the selection of a vice mayor. And since Mr. Hunter, Commissioner Hunter, who was just elected mayor, is not here, the vice mayor will assume the role of chairing the rest of the meeting after that's been elected.
I would like to, this is going to be an unprecedented nomination. We have a new member of the Johnson City Commission. But Greg Cox has served this community in many roles, such as on the Johnson City Development Authority, JCDA. He's been on the Planning Commission, and I know he's been on a lot of other boards and committees throughout the community. He has a good sense of how the city works, stepping in for the first time tonight. And so I know it's, Joe served, Dr. Fowler served, I've served, and so I'm going to nominate him to be our vice mayor.
And I'll wholeheartedly second it.
All right. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Laus?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Cox?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
All right, I would recommend now to take a short recess so everyone can reposition themselves and
Could we also plan, I'd like to ask the room to join me, when the mayor gets here, could we all rise and clap and celebrate his arrival?
Or boo, we can.
Yeah, or whatever, but I want to make it as awkward as possible when he gets here. So, just be prepared, I'll give you the signal.
so we're going to take a short adjournment until Vice Mayor Cox can get situated and be prepared to move forward with the meeting.
Yeah. Well, throw me to the fire.
I think that's
I'd like to reopen the City Commission meeting on Thursday, December 5th at the Water and Sewer Complex. First up, I'd like to get the approval of the minutes for the previous meeting from Thursday, November 21st.
Move approval.
Second.
Ms. Laus, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cox?
Yes.
Vice Mayor, there was no one signed up for public comment on the agenda tonight. So the next item would be under proclamations, resolutions, and presentations. There's a 2024 Christmas card artwork program, award recipients to recognize and acknowledge them. And I think Director Norris from Park and Rec will be doing a small presentation to show that at this time.
Director Norris, can you come up? And this is kind of a fun one to be my very first action, is to present this
Yes, so
proclamation.
welcome. And thank you all so much for allowing us to come before you this evening with this fun thing that the kids get to do for us. So this is our 2024 Christmas card contest, and this goes out to these two different cards go out to over 300 citizens throughout the city of Johnson City. So we put this out to our after-school participants at Carver Recreation Center and at Memorial Park. And this year our winners are Sincerity Mathis, and you can see her artwork displayed here, and Javion Jordan. So at this time I'd like to ask for both of them to come up and join me up here. And Sincerity was not able to make it this evening, so we just have Javion. So congratulations, buddy.
It's green.
It's great.
Javion, thank you so much for your art, and it's beautiful and fun. And just on behalf of Johnson City and the city commissioners, we'd like to present you with this. So here's a gift. And here's just a certificate of achievement. And hopefully you'll keep up the good work and keep up with art and share it with all of us. We love to get to enjoy it.
So, Vice Mayor, the next order on the agenda is 6.1, the appointment of City Municipal Court Judge for a 2-year term as required by the city charter. And Assistant City Manager Steve Willis will be explaining this for you.
Thank you, Deputy City Manager Trivett, Vice Mayor Cox, Commissioners. I'm Steve Willis, Assistant City Manager. As you know, we have a City Municipal Court Judge, Mr. Stan Widener, who has served the city and its citizens very well for a good number of years. When I reached out to Judge Widener to gauge his interest in continuing in that capacity, he had tremendous things to say, not only about you as a commission with entrusting him in this position, but also in our men and women in the police department and the fantastic job that they do. So I would recommend that we reappoint Judge Stan Widener to the position of City Municipal Court Judge for a 2-year term.
All right, Commissioners, is there any discussion?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve.
Second.
And we're just so grateful to Judge Widener for his service to the citizens of Johnson City. I know he has a very fair court, and he helps us enforce the laws of Johnson City and state of Tennessee. So thank him.
He does a fantastic job.
And it might be worth just acknowledging, the city commission really has a limited number of appointments: the municipal judge, the city attorney, and essentially the city manager.
Correct.
And so
And the
this is.
juvenile judge, right?
Juvenile.
And juvenile judge. So,
Actually, the juvenile judge is elected.
That's right. Right.
so this was a kind of a rarity that happens every 2 years. There's only 2 or 3 times we're doing this.
Yes, sir. That's correct. Thank you.
So I have a motion and a second. Also just like to acknowledge that Stan's been a judge for almost 20 years here, so lucky to have him. Ms. Laus, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cox?
Yes.
Vice Mayor, the next order is the consent agenda.
Are there any amendments we want to make to the consent agenda?
I would ask to pull 7.1.1, just to draw attention to it.
Good.
All right.
And I would pull, I was going to pull that one, so thank you,
Oh, sorry.
Commissioner Wise. I'd also like to pull 7.2.1, since the major will be up here. He can probably address that one too, just to inform our citizens about the work, the upgrade work that's being done for our police department and the firing range.
And when you say pool, do you mean it?
They'll discuss it
Okay.
individually, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll take them one item at a time until they get finished.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's,
Mayor Fowler, do you have any?
I have none.
all right, so I'll open up the consent agenda. So 7.1 is general agenda items. 7.1.1 is consider the approval to declare 4 police department vehicles as surplus and donate to the Irwin Police Department.
Good evening, Vice Mayor. Congratulations on your recent election, Commissioners, Ms. Laus and Mr. Trivett. I'm Scotty Carrier. I'm the Administrative Major with the Johnson City Police Department. As we all know, a couple months ago, Hurricane Helene hit and hit us rather hard, especially in Unicoi and Washington counties and Carter as well. So when we were in the process of responding to assist those various counties, especially Unicoi and Washington County, the Irwin Police Department reached out to us and asked about if they could have some of our vehicles, if they could borrow some of our vehicles to assist them through this time that they were going through. So we pulled 4 of our vehicles and sent to them so that they could use to supplement their patrols and all. Well, in the interim, they've had them since late September. The request came in to want to know, and it was approved by Ms. Ball, or at least she wanted us to go ahead and proceed with the process to go ahead and just give them those vehicles. So that's what this is about this evening. So rather than us surplusing them and putting them on gov.deals to auction, we just like to go ahead and give them to the Irwin Police Department at
How
this
many
time.
vehicles did Irwin lose in the Helene flooding?
I have no idea, Mr. Wise, but I know, but we provided them 4, so I'm going to assume that at least 4 were lost then, yes, sir.
And these are vehicles that have serviced us for a long, long time, and now Irwin can be the proud owners of a Crown Victoria, I think, yeah?
With 250,000 miles on it.
Well, they were a little better than that.
But I think we did do some work to get them ready for them, and just speaking as a commissioner, I'm very grateful that we were able to help and, help them with, just infrastructure issues that they're having and will for a long time.
Yes, ma'am, and we were fortunate that we didn't get hit any harder than some of
Yes.
those locations. So yes, it's nice to be a blessing, yes, ma'am.
All right, Commissioners.
I guess, is Major Courier going to address 7.2.1
Yeah.
as well?
I think him and Director Ross may be
There
able
we
to
go.
do that. We don't want to put Major Carrier on the spot.
We've, Major, the firing range, the police training area out there, that firing range has been there for how long?
I don't know. I've been here since 1991, and it was there in 1991,
So about the date of the Crown Victorias,
Yeah,
right?
there you go. Yes, ma'am.
So what are we doing, Mr. Ross?
So the core of the project is to replace the dynamic target systems that they have on I'll call it the short range or the pistol range. There are two current systems there that are just completely non-functional. And so one are the ones that turn. There's 25 lanes and the targets that turn, and another is one that goes back and forth. They can tell you more about how those are used if you like. But that's the core of the project. We're also upgrading the lighting, some of the infrastructure there, PA system, the entry gate with controlled locks and so forth. So it's just really going to make that site more secure and enhance their training experience. Another neat feature is the light bars that'll simulate emergency vehicles so that they can simulate actually being on site of a call with those lights going and those distractions that those offer.
And Vice Mayor, if I may add to that, this is being funded mostly by ARPA money. There's a small amount of capital that'll come out of the police capital, but the bulk of this, the $700,000, is coming from ARPA money. And this has to be committed before the December 31st of this year, but it doesn't have to be completed until December of 2026.
And ARPA money was federal kind of
COVID relief,
money.
that's
Right.
correct. This is the last bit of that we already had given to us that we have to commit in.
Sounds great. Sounds like
And
a good
Ranger
use.
Carey, do we also allow other groups to come in and use our range?
Yes,
And y'all do
that's-
training, actually?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct, we do. Yes, ma'am.
That's good.
Do we need to make a motion to vote
I would move approval on the consent
Consent,
agenda
the
as
whole
a
thing,
whole.
as a whole? Okay.
If
And I'll
we're
second.
ready. Okay,
Okay. Any discussion?
Thank you.
thank you.
Ms. Laus, can you read the roll?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cox?
Yes.
Vice Mayor, the next order of business is ordinances on first reading. And it's required for me to read the ordinance heading and caption only. So 8.1 is ordinance number 4902-24, first reading. An ordinance to abandon a 15-foot wide utility easement located in the former Clinchfield Street. And this is through our water and sewer services, and Assistant Director Lane is going to present this.
Good evening, everyone. So as Deputy City Manager Trivett said, this is the first reading for ordinance 4902-24. So just a couple quick slides. This is actually an existing off Clinchfield Street, so right off the State of Franklin Road. Right there, a new hotel, the Echo Suites, was just constructed. So at the very end of Clinchfield Street, what we have before you tonight for first reading is an easement abandonment through the existing site. So here's kind of a location of the parcel in question. Obviously, this is the new Extension Novus Drive, State of Franklin Road here. This is the property that was just recently developed. Here's kind of a rendering of the site now, so kind of getting your bearings. State of Franklin would be off the page this way. What you see kind of going through the middle of this drawing, though, was the existing sanitary and water lines that went right through the middle of the property off of Clinchfield Street. So the reason for this before you tonight is the water line was rerouted. So the new water line is actually on the edge of the new development. It's already been installed and is active. So before you tonight is the first reading of the abandonment of the existing easement through the middle of the property.
Thanks, Director Lane.
Yeah.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Laus, can you read the roll?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cox?
Yes.
Vice Mayor, the next ordinance, 8.2, is ordinance 4904-24, first reading. An ordinance to amend the zoning map of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee by changing from A1 district, R4 district to RP3 district for property located at Watauga Road and Frank Jones Road. And Planner Bryce McNamer will present this for us.
Thank you, Mr. Trivett. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Bryce McNamer, planner with the Development Services Department. The item for your consideration this evening is rezoning of property on Watauga Road and Frank Jones Road. The request is rezoning of one parcel of 46.35 acres, currently split zoned between A1 Agricultural District and R4 Medium Density Residential District, going to a common district, that being RP3 Planned Residential 3, to accommodate a future development of microhomes. So to gain our bearings here with the aerial view, our site is depicted with this red and yellow X here. I'll start over here. This is our mall area, Science Hill area, and then we know I-26 runs about right here. Connecting to the Unaka and Watauga corridors that run up this way, past Civitan and Rotary Parks, as well as a country club. And that extends out to the eastern portion of the city, on Watauga Road, past the ridge. Going up into this area, you'd go past the Johnson City Airport, eventually crossing the Watauga River over to the city of Watauga itself. And our subject site just sits on the north end with frontage there. So zoom back in, looking at the current conditions of the site itself. There are two stem frontages giving access to this property. This one on the western stem it would be, is currently the only vehicle access to the property. It is a single-lane gravel road. The other frontage is currently not used. Now, looking at the landscape of the parcel, the topography is quite different on the different halves of this. The lower southern portion near Watauga Road is much more open, less vegetated, and with minor elevation changes. And as we can see depicted by the contours here, as you hit the base of that ridge and go up towards the back in the northern portions, you have a lot more steep elevation changes, a lot more dense wooded areas up in this area. We can also see that this discoloration in the vegetated area, this is an existing power line easement, and there is an existing start of a stream that does flow off to the east this way. This low area of the parcel is considered a wet weather conveyance area, so it is not always consistently flowing, but when there is a storm, that is where the water pools. Now, taking a look at the current zoning, as I did mention, this is split zone between A1 and R4. These are two vastly different zoning districts in their intent and permitted uses. A1 is primarily geared towards agricultural uses, clearly, and with...
I think
Can I hold you right
we
there?
need
Yes,
to,
we can.
we need to stand and clap. So,
All right,
You want me to keep going or sit down?
we'll pause just for a second and let John take his seat, if that's,
And thank American Airlines for getting you here.
What's going on here? My seat's been over there for 6 years.
All right.
Surprise.
yeah,
He's
we're
in the
on,
middle of his presentation.
yep, 8.1, 8.2,
Rolling.
keep rolling it.
Keep going? Okay. Current zoning of this site is split zone between the A1 and R4. A1 is primarily an agricultural district with agriculture and more rural permitted uses, whereas R4 is primarily used for multifamily uses, multifamily residential uses, that is. The requested zoning being RP3 shares a lot more characteristics with the R4, as they both are primarily used for multifamily dwellings. The R4 does permit a density of 14 units per acre, and the requested zoning going to RP3 is a density that's a little bit less than that at 8.5 units per acre. Looking around the adjacent zonings, we can see that this R4 does extend around the backs of the property, not only onto the area of the ridge, but down into some parcels and connecting up to the frontage of Watauga here and over here. This A1 district does extend to the parcel directly to the east, and this parcel does share the same split zone condition between A1 and R4. Between the frontage of Watauga and where the larger area of this is, in between and outside beside the stems here, is R2, single-family residential district here, and that does extend to a few other parcels directly to the east this way and as well as this way. There is one portion of a parcel that is B4 in this area. Directly to the south of Watauga is currently county property. It is a mixture of agriculture and high-density residential for the Washington County zoning. Zooming out and looking at the corridors a bit more, we have our red X depicting the location of the parcel, our subject site here once again. I have depicted that Unaka and Watauga corridor here, Unaka being in blue, Watauga being in red. As you come up here with East Unaka and meet East Lakeview Drive, this is where the name changes to Watauga Road and then extends to the edge of the city out here. Now, looking at this frontage, we do have the R2 that is really confined to just next to this parcel. The majority of this frontage in this corridor is actually zoned R4, and most of these parcels are permitted by right to have multifamily uses in them. Looking at the current land use, the past uses of this site have been agricultural. There is an existing barn still on the structure. So you can see this dark green color being the agricultural use here. We do see primarily depicted by the yellow color along the corridor, it is single family. However, there are a few multifamily depicted by the orange, dispersed on and within this corridor as we go up and along the road. The rear of the property obviously is up in the ridge with that undeveloped area, very dense and steep elevation changes. This is largely vacant and there is no development. Future land use calls for this parcel and many of the adjoining parcels in the area as appropriate for residential uses, with the requested district being RP3, and as we'll see on the concept plan showing residential uses, this is compatible with the future land use plan. This rezoning is required to have a accompanying concept plan for two different reasons, one of which being that any development or any rezoning to an RP3 district is automatically required by the district regulations. Second of which is that this parcel directly abuts a single-family residential neighborhood, that being the R2, where we saw right in this area with the existing single-family uses here. This concept plan will be binding, and any major change will have to follow the concept plan amendment process, which would need to go back through another neighborhood meeting, back through Planning Commission, and 3 readings of City Commission. Essentially the same process we are doing for a rezoning. A major change could be increasing of units, changing of ingress egress, changing of use, changing the location of roads and parking to a major extent, or anything else determined to decrease or increase the intensity as determined by staff. On the concept plan, there are a total of 184 residential units. That is equated to 3.97 units per acre for a density calculation. As we did note, the RP3 does allow up to 8.5 units per acre. However, this is the binding concept plan, so they would not be able to increase this upon any approval of this. There is a slight majority of single-family uses in this. 106 of the 184 are single-family. The remaining are all multifamily, divided into 3 different types: 34 duplexes, 36 townhomes, and 8 apartments. The 8 apartments will all be concentrated in this location here. This is classified as the mixed-use building and will house the 8 apartments. The remaining square footage of that space will be used as a common area, which would be used for work areas and tables, communal laundry, and snack and coffee bar, things like that that are permitted use within the RP3 district under the definition of community center. There will be new stormwater retention areas, and in that location noted earlier with the stream, that will remain undisturbed with the 60-foot buffer on either side. For the most part, the wet weather conveyance is also left undisturbed apart from 1 road crossing. The majority of this development will be accessed by new public roads. As we can see, the frontage that is currently the access, that gravel path, will be the one main public road access here. This entire loop and this cul-de-sac will all be public roads built to subdivision regulation standards, which would be a 50-foot right-of-way, 24-foot drive aisle, and sidewalks on both sides.
But that means the developer is building it to the public road standard, correct?
Yes. There is only the singular access point here, but all of these roads will be public. There are private roads also proposed for less trafficked areas of this. One I'd like to point out is the required secondary access for emergency vehicles. This will be a gated access that only the fire department or emergency services would have access to open a gate to get in there in the case of an emergency. There are a few other spokes that come out, one of which coming off of the public right-of-way here comes up into this area, which are classified as single family, but they are intended to be rental cabins and not be permanent dwellings up here on the ridge. And this one comes out to a few extra garages, offering some extra parking, as well as snaking up into this area to be used as an observation deck.
And those last 3 are all private drives?
These are going to be private drives, yes. The zoning code requires 366 parking spaces for the amount of units and uses. There are 380 depicted. As I mentioned, those detached garages over here. This is 7 two-car garage offering a few extra parking spaces in this area. There are also 14 bike racks dispersed across the development to encourage other uses of travel. For parking access, most of these single-family uses and duplexes have a driveway that is directly accessed off of the public right-of-way, and the parking would be located there. But scattered across the plan are also these little pockets of multiple units where there is one access off the right-of-way, and parking is grouped into a lot, sort of. So we can see that in a few areas here, the townhomes, a few of the single-family units as well. A requirement of the RP3 district is open space. They are required a minimum of 15% of the total acreage and 7.5%, so that would be half of the 15%. Has to be active open space. Active open space can be gained by walking trails, pavilions, communal gardens, playgrounds, picnic areas, anything that encourages activity outside of the units and in a common area. On the concept plan, this has been depicted over the requirement at 20% of the area will be used for open space, 7.5% will be open active space. The locations of this will be finalized at the preliminary plat stage. However, with the concept plan, we do bind them to the amount of area that they have to use. They do have plenty of undeveloped area here, but we would be binding them to 9.27 acres open, 3.48 of that would be active. There will be a required type 1 buffer yard where the property abuts that R2 zoning in the front to protect the existing single-family residential units, as well as in a few other places. On those combined parking areas, there is pedestrian walkways that go along outside of the public sidewalks that give access directly to these units, as well as a screen dumpster area and mailbox clusters. Locations to be determined later. Now, between the Planning Commission hearing and now, there were a few minor tweaks that were made in response to some comments at the Planning Commission as well as the neighborhood meeting that the developer has responded to and been able to update these. First of which is addressing the turnaround up here for the rental cabins area. Second of which is the buffer along this portion of the lot line here. And 3 and 4 concern the detached garages area. So the first one, this is pretty simple. This has just been expanded to allow for emergency services or fire truck turnaround a bit bigger up here. So it's a safe turnaround area. The buffer yard was added in this area to further delineate the two properties. This is where it directly abuts the other agricultural area. So adding the buffer up where it was existing next to the stream up to where the power line easement is to further delineate these, especially where the units get a bit closer to the property line. And then for the detached garages, this was what was previously put in. It's still the same number. However, these have been combined into one structure to make room for the buffer to go around. This is actually church property directly to the west here, and this is a single-family property. So making sure we get the most buffers possible and still staying out of the power line easement here. Water and sewer services are available in the surrounding area. We can see that the water line does run along Watauga. The sewer line actually runs through in that lower area. Directly through the property, and that is also another reason why that area has been left undisturbed. A traffic study will be performed to inform of any necessary improvements that will need to be made to Watauga Road. The concept plan did put a possible location of a deceleration lane. However, a traffic study would inform staff whether a left turn or any other improvements would need to be made. The Johnson City Transit Green Route does not stop directly in front of this development. However, it does stop on Watauga Road within the area at the intersection of MacArthur Street. That is just under about half a mile from the proposed entry along where Frank Jones Road would be. Fairmont Elementary, Indian Trail Middle School, and Science Hill High School would have adequate capacity for any school-age children that would live in the development. And there is an existing school bus stop that is located on Watauga Road, just near the entrance. The neighborhood meeting was held on November 6th. There were 9 attendees, most of which spoke in opposition to the project, and most of which own property in between the front, in between Watauga Road and where the front of the development would be. Some of the main concerns were of the amount of units and the type of units introducing multifamily to this location, as well as the size and price of units and how that could impact property values of the surrounding property owners. As well as new development, there comes future residents and the concern of increased crime and noise. There was a strong desire for sidewalks along Watauga Road in this area, as well as a concern for traffic congestion on Watauga Road and allowing development, possibly increasing this congestion. The location of the deceleration lane and the fire access road was a concern of those that do have driveways that directly connect from their property straight up to Watauga Road, and whether if that would cause any issues for their driveways. The possibility of stream flooding and increased flooding by increasing the impervious area and developing this parcel, as well as questioning the adequacy of the stormwater areas, general questions of the timeline of construction, and how vehicles would access this property, whether they would be going through. Likely they would use the location of Frank Jones Road, where is it already accessible, and whether grading and blasting would be occurring throughout the process of development. Lastly, the location of the existing sewer line, whether any improvements were being planned to be made, and how this would impact the residents in the area currently using septic. And before I get to my recommendation, I'd just like to point to the bridge plan. This is a bit of a unique proposal for microhomes. So first of all, pointing to the land use element, policy 216, highlighting promoting inclusivity in economically integrated neighborhoods. And then in the housing element, facilitating the private construction of the housing supply, including adequate sites for low and moderate income housing. Now for the recommendation, staff recommends approval of the proposed rezoning and concept plan, as this will solve the current split zone condition of the lot, as we see two very different districts with agriculture and high density residential being applied to this lot currently. This requested zoning district of RP3 does have a lower density than what is already allowed on about a third of the lot with that R4 zoning. And the R4 actually, it does extend to Watauga Road, so this would be a lesser zoning than what is predominant in the area. This is compatible with the future land use plan in the immediate area. Not only is the zoning district maximum permitted density lower than what's in the area, but the concept plan depicts a density that is much lower than that maximum as well. It's about half at that 3.97 units per acre. And there is a slight majority of single-family units with a mix of other residential types with the townhomes and the duplexes, which we see there are a few different developments of along Watauga Road in this corridor. The concept plan does maximize the use of the land that is feasible for development and still preserving the vegetation in the ridge area where it is less feasible for development. And lastly, the Johnson City Regional Planning Commission did vote unanimously to recommend approval of the rezoning on November 12th, 2024. That's all I have. Available for questions. And the applicant is here as well.
In your research, making your recommendation, I'm just curious how we have A1 and R4. That's just a peculiar arrangement to have R2 at the frontage and then A1 and then R4 behind it. Like, do you know the history of how those were applied?
I do not. I could not find any record of a rezoning. My guess would be that there was the farm and that's how A1 got applied. However, the R4 at the top of the ridge is quite peculiar.
Any questions?
Commissioners, and Bryce, thank you so much for your presentation. I watched you on the video for the Planning Commission, and, you know, you're well-researched on this and did a great job helping us understand it. This is a unique project. You know, it is kind of out of the norm of some of the developments that we've had here in Johnson City. And as we are talking about, and we probably need to stop calling it affordable housing, but accessible housing that folks in different job levels, you know, can be able to buy into these kind of neighborhoods. It's a planned neighborhood. And, you know, I personally believe that we have mega-sized ourselves out of affordability of the homes around here. And I keep hearing people like in my age group saying, you know, we need to downsize, downsize, downsize. And so it presents an alternate kind of housing here that we haven't seen before. I think it's unique. It's going to be a big project. I've met the developers and very impressed with their enthusiasm and energy that they can move forward on this project. And so I'm absolutely going to support rezoning that to the requested RP4. Right?
I'll second that, Jenny. So we're going to-
I guess before we make a motion, and great points, Commissioner Brock, I'd like to go back to the neighborhood comments. So, I mean, were those pretty much addressed at the neighborhood meeting, or, I mean, I guess the deceleration lane and fire access road, I had questions myself from that. Were those altered, or are they fine or significant as they are, or?
They will need a secondary access, and that is fire code. They will need a secondary way to get in there. Actually, I'll bring this up.
But in
This-
relation to
this-
other property owners' driveways, is there, I mean, concern as they
This was
have?
the main concern with the fire access and the driveway. This is the secondary frontage, and this is a driveway that was built across
Okay.
the subject site's property here, so we'd like to find a way around this, but to develop, they are going to need a secondary access here.
Right.
Now with the deceleration lane, there would just need to be more studies done specifically. Whoops. Right here where these two driveways enter, right here.
Okay.
It's not really an alternate to a deceleration lane to pull off of the road, but we'd like to find a common ground to, you know, please make it safe and
Sure.
have them.
And a detailed traffic study that he referred to would kind of outline what the distance of that would need to be, how it would need to be located, and also determine if there would need to be a left-hand turn lane. Based on the way the road's constructed now, and it's a state route currently, I don't think there would need to be any other improvements to Watauga Road, but a traffic study would determine all that in front of this and based on this development.
Okay.
So to do the deceleration lane in this scenario you're talking about, there would have to be some right-of-way gained in order to do that would come from those two front properties.
I'll defer that to Anthony Todd with traffic.
Okay.
Good evening, Commission. The answer to the question is there is sufficient state right-of-way that there should not be
Okay.
a need for additional right-of-way.
But a decel lane is always to the right, isn't it? Or are you talking, like, this would seem like a property more likely to be coming and going from the west, not, I guess that's technically kind of the west.
Correct.
So people are going to be coming from the Johnson City side of it. The decel lane would be on the Watauga side of it.
The decel lane is probably where less of the traffic would be coming from. We expect more of it to be coming from the Johnson City direction. So that's what the traffic study will determine.
Okay, thank you.
But pulling out of the neighborhood, there will be a lane that they could accelerate in to get onto Watauga Road, or is that necessary? at
It's
that
usually
point?
not necessary. In
Okay.
fact, acceleration lanes sometimes cause more problems than the hill.
Okay.
I agree.
So I guess procedurally, it's just worth acknowledging if there are folks that are here as neighbors to this project, this is first reading, and so there'll be public hearing on second reading, so we're voting on it for the first of 3 times, so there'll be an opportunity for neighbors to speak to the revised proposal, again, I guess in 2 weeks. Will it be on the agenda in 2 weeks? Okay.
Yes, sir.
With that, is there a motion?
There is a motion.
I will make the
Okay.
motion, make it formal.
Okay.
Now that we approve the
And
requested,
I'll make a formal second.
Okay. Ms. Lau?
Commissioner Brock?
yes.
Commissioner, hold on.
I was going
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cox?
Yes.
Mayor Hunter?
yes.
Mayor Hunter, the next item of business, and that's the first time I've got to say that. so Congratulations.
Thank you.
But the next order is ordinances on second reading, and so we have ordinance number 4903-24, second reading and a public hearing. An ordinance providing for the conveyance of 10 parcels of real property owned by the City of Johnson City, located in the 5th Civil District of Unicoi County, Tennessee, to Charles and Jessica Bird, Stacy Collins, Justin and Jamie Black, Richard and Shanda Lambert, Charles Hollifield, Kelvin Walker, Darrell and Sandra Fitz, David Frazier, and James Woodward. This property is the entirety of the former Buffalo Valley Golf Course, comprised of approximately 124 acres, and Assistant City Manager Steve Willis will be addressing this.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, thank you. I have one point of information regarding this ordinance and then an addendum as well to cover with you this evening for your consideration. The point of information would be that I appeared before the Town of Unicoi Planning Commission on Monday night of this week to gain their approval for 2 parcels that were less than 5 acres after they had been parceled out. They did approve that request, so we can move forward. The addendum that I'll bring before you tonight, the parcel that's adjacent to our current water sewer station there that the city will retain. As our survey crews went out to get a survey on that property, at the request of the water sewer group, we are retaining an additional ½ acre of property around the package plant. And that would just be for any future work that we would need to do at the package plant to give that space necessary. So that reduced the acreage for that parcel outlined in your packet as parcel 11 by ½ acre. So subsequent to that, we reduced the price by $6,000, which was the value based upon the total price for an acre of that particular parcel. So that reduced it from $350,000 down to $344,000. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
That's hole number 6.
The property formerly known as Hole Number 6.
Correct. Yes,
Part 5.
Commissioner Brock would certainly know that, no question about it.
What's the total value of all of the parcels?
A little over 1.8 million.
Okay. This has been a long road, and there have been lots of ways this has gone or could have gone that would not have been well received by our neighbors in Unicoi. And I can't imagine a better win-win situation for the city of Johnson City and for the neighbors of the former Buffalo Valley. I just think staff is to be commended, and I think Unicoi, the town of Unicoi, is to be commended, and the neighbors, because I really think we're getting to something that's kind of the best possible outcome in a world where there aren't enough rounds of golf to support all the golf courses that existed 20 years ago.
It's coming back.
It is, but it's coming back because we were restraining supply. But so I'm happy to make a motion.
Well,
We have a
on
public
second.
hearing.
I'm
Yep.
sorry. I'm just overly enthusiastic.
Thank you. We are as well.
All right.
Any other comments or questions?
Well, and just to have that many neighbors that can kind of get together and get on the same page is really shows that that community communicates well, so that's another thing to kind of point out.
No problem. With that, with this being second reading, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody here to speak in favor or against? Not to be too premature, but I don't think anybody's going to get up. We'll close the public
Now
hearing.
can I make that motion?
Now you may make a motion.
I'm for it.
A second.
Ms. Lau?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cox?
Yes.
Mayor Hunter?
Yes.
And so, just to ask a question before we move on, we need to approve that on 3 readings. So we'll do that on the 19th, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And that'll be the final.
That'll be
And
fine.
that'll be the final, and then what will that mean in terms of like, when could these, will they all close at once, or
Yes.
will, okay.
The plan is to have all the parcels closed in January.
Okay.
And we have a tentative date set. I can't recall that off the top of my head, but we have it tentatively set in January.
Thank you.
And one comment I would like to add to that is we did have some very good realtors who helped guide this process along.
Yes.
Worked very well together, worked really well with Mr. Willis, who's done a tremendous job on this as well. I would like to commend them for their efforts. There was some, what we thought would be some stumbling blocks or some snags that come up, but we all sat down together in the same room and were able to work with our city attorney and get all that stuff worked out. So it is a great process that's happened, and I really do agree with Commissioner Wise that it is going to be a great thing for that neighborhood.
For sure.
Mayor Hunter, the next thing on the agenda is the city manager's report, and for the city manager's report tonight, I've asked Water Sewer to do a presentation on their capital projects to report to you what's going on, and Assistant Director John Lane is here to do that presentation, and he has also known that time is of the essence.
Great, thank you. Mr. Lane?
I am the last item on the agenda, so I'll talk fast. So, good evening, Mr. Trivett, Ms. Laus, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. So what I have before you tonight is the Water Sewer Capital Project update for calendar year 2024. Feel free to stop me along the way if you have any questions.
First question.
Sure.
Do we get hours for this?
No, this is just for
Then I
your own
object.
enjoyment.
I
It was so
object.
cold, we were out there, we didn't get hours for it.
We'll have one more work session for you in January for hours. Though.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll be quiet.
So introduction. We have 2 different types of projects for water sewer, our rate-funded capital and our debt-funded capital projects. Rate-funded capital projects are shorter duration. Those usually kind of fit into those repetitive categories like our annual galvanized replacement and tank recoating projects. And then on the debt-funded capital side, we use our series of master plans as roadmaps for helping us identify future capital investments. What you kind of see there is we have 2 different debt-funded capital plans. So FY19 through 2022, we're significantly been working through that one, and we do have a proposed FY 2026 through 2029 plan. So planning for CIP delivery on this slide is a series of master plans that we use as our roadmaps for 10 to 20 years for capital planning. What's outlined in bold, though, is significant because that's what we've, over the last series of weeks, presented to you as work sessions. So if you see a water master plan revision that we had in Unicoi, Knob Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant Campus, PER, as well as an AMI or Smart Water Meter Master Plan and a SCADA Master Plan. So projects completed, and these are projects that have been completed since the last update I had for you, December of 2023, so in the last calendar year. So West Walnut Street, I know the overall project is nearing completion, but on the water sewer portion we have completed. So obviously what you see in purple, shaded in purple, is the overall footprint of the project area, significant project that the city has undertaken. The water sewer portion we started actually 3 years ago. September of 2021 we started construction. Construction for us has been completed. We've actually installed over 2.2 miles of water line and over 1.6 miles of new sewer line for the length of it. Here's a couple pictures you can see. The picture on the far left is actually the crossing of University Parkway and West Walnut Street for a new 12-inch water line. You can kind of see the BP gas station in the edge of the picture there. The picture on the right is actually a new 16-inch diameter sewer line also crossing at the University Parkway intersection. We worked in coordination with TDOT for a State Route 75 project for water and sewer relocations. This is kind of near the Northeast State and Tri-Cities Airport. That's been completed. This one obviously is fresh on everybody's minds for earlier today for our ribbon cutting event. For this piece, though, we actually had GRC Construction do some architectural improvements on site. Y'all closed this one out for commission in October. What this entailed, though, was architectural improvements throughout the campus. The picture on the right was new translucent panels in our equipment building. Obviously, we had our tent set out here earlier today. This was our administration building from the 1950s. So new doors, new windows were installed here. We also worked with the Public Works Department for landscaping around this area. And there also was a new perimeter fence that was installed with new gates. So projects currently under delivery. Sinking Creek Sewer Pump Station. So this is actually located in Carter County. This station was installed in the 1990s, early 1990s. 2 million gallons a day of average flow, and it'll have peak flow around 7 million gallons a day. Portions of this existing station, though, have reached their service life. So we're currently working with Morgan Contracting out of Knoxville, Tennessee. They're on site currently. This project will entail new pumps, new electrical, a new standby generator, and they're also installing a new screening structure, so a new building on the front side of this here. Here's a couple pictures. So the picture you see here on the left is actually a shoring system in order to actually have an excavation area to install the new building. This was taken right before they started the form work for the building. This hole was 25 feet deep. So now this is actually from about 3 weeks ago. This is the final finished floor elevation with the steel reinforcement. This slab has now been, concrete has been poured. They're actually getting ready to do the final wall pour and probably sometime next week. Gray tank rehabilitation. So this is the tank you see at exit 13 off the gray exit, right off I-26 at the tree line. The tank itself was constructed in 1966. It was last recoated in 1998. Contractor is on site currently. They're actually replacing the roof rafters on the inside of the tank. The plan is to have this tank back in service in early calendar year 2025. Sea sewer lift station replacement. This is a station we have off of Kingsport Highway off of Boring Chapel Road. The station was installed in the 1970s. Summers Taylor is actually the awarded contractor for this one. So what these pictures from about 2 weeks ago shows the grading work. They've actually already started clearing and doing grading on site. The final product will actually be a new station with a new concrete wet well, new pumps, new electrical, and a new standby generator. Knob Creek Road, West Mountain View Road, and Oakland Avenue. So this is a product kind of all together in coordination with both our Public Works Department and TDOT. So obviously you can see the various water and sewer improvements involved. We do plan on mobilizing in our own in-house construction crews in early calendar year 2025 on the Oakland Avenue portion first. We'll actually be doing a 1,500-foot, 12-inch water line extension, kind of going west from Denny Mill. And these are projects we have planned to be advertised in calendar year 2025. So first is our H sewer lift station replacement. So out in gray, we have an existing sewer pump station that's very close to the fairgrounds property. That station was installed in the 1970s. It catches all the flow above I-26, so Gray Fossil Site, Daniel Boone High School, several residential developments, including the Keebler annexation. So based on that recent annexation, the station needed to be upgraded for size. So this project actually will be a new gravity sewer line further downstream, a new station, and then a new pressurized pipeline back into the system. So we're in final design now. You can kind of see pictures on the left and right. So this is the routing of where the gravity sewer line will be. So actually the Daniel Boone Little League is at the edge of this picture here. And then the new sewer pressurized force main to pump flow back into our system. It'll go along Pitts Miller Road right here. Like I said, we're in final design now. Hope to have that advertised to bid in spring of 2025. B2D sewer lift station force main. So this project is critical for additional handling future flows in our Boones Creek sewer shed. It's actually 14,000 feet of a new 30-inch pressurized pipeline. So it'll begin near B sewer pump station, which is near Boone Lake, kind of parallels the TVA transmission line routing, and then it'll end at D sewer pump station, which is off Kingsport Highway. There was actually over 50 easements to acquire for this. We have almost got all of them to date. We have the last few left, so our plan is to have this advertised to bid in spring of 2025 as well. We try to do a neighborhood galvanized replacement every year or every other year. We are currently under design now for our next galvanized replacement in 2 different areas. It's off of Oak Grove Road off Kingsport Highway, and then also in Brandonwood Drive, so just north of Indian Ridge Road. We'll replace the galvanized there all the way back to right off the page before Fairhaven is right here. Liberty Bell and Limestone Cove tank rehabilitation. So like I mentioned, we're currently recoating the gray tank. Next calendar year, in calendar year 2025, we'll actually have a bid package with 2 tank recoatings at the same time. So the Liberty Bell tank, which is a 300,000 gallon tank next to the Liberty Bell and Science Hill campuses, that tank was originally constructed in 1973. It was last recoated in 2000, so it's due for another recoating. And then the other tank is actually the Limestone Cove tank, which is off of Highway 107 in Unicoi. It was actually constructed in 2003, so this will be the very first recoating for that tank. Washington County Waterline Extensions Phase 2. So we've been working as part of the Washington County Water Task Force for several years. Obviously, we previously closed out Phase 1, which was 6 waterline extensions in various locations previously. As part of the Water Task Force, Phase 2 is actually the 4 roads you see here: Payne Lane, Cox Road, Bob Joad Road, and Buckingham Road. So we're in design now for these. It's a little over 11,000 feet of new waterline extensions to unserved areas. So we hope to have that advertised to bid in summer of 2025. TDOT, an additional TDOT project is State Route 107. This is actually, the bridge is part of a state project to replace this existing bridge, which requires our water line to be relocated. Right now, the state is not sure about the timeline of when they would bid this out based on just all the unforeseen flooding that happened in Unicoi in that area. And then project staging for development and delivery. So after we do the next galvanized project, our one in our calendar year 2025, 2026 is actually off of, this is the Cliffs subdivision here, Boone Lake, around this area. It would be replacing galvanized water lines along Rangewood Road and Baywood Drive, and actually would also be closing, making a loop connection with an extension of the water line of the one installed here to tie it back into the Cliffs subdivision. Lower Boones Creek Interceptor. So this is actually an existing 10-inch sewer line from the 1970s. This is I-26, exit 17. So obviously the new interchange here. This project would begin just above Boone Lake at our B sewer pump station, following Boones Creek, and it would end right at the I-26 interchange. So this is also a critical project for handling future flows in the Boones Creek sewer shed. This line would catch all the flows from the interchange and everything to the west of I-26 at that exit. And then waterline crossings, kind of the next 2 slides. We have 7 different waterline crossings we're working with railroads on. So 3 are actually Norfolk Southern crossings. And the next slide will be actually 4 with CSX. So these are all obviously all for critical new interconnections in our system. So on the Norfolk Southern side, it would include Green Pond Road, then McKinley Road crossing, and then one on Woodland Road. And then here's the second slide is on CSX. So 4 critical locations crossing CSX right-of-way: Boone Station Road, Old Stage Road, Liberty Church Road, and Garland Way. So these are in design now. We have not approached the railroad yet, but that will be the next step, is actually getting permits for these in hand with agreements. And then we try to do a sewer rehabilitation project every year, every other year. We're currently in a preliminary engineering report process right now with a consultant. And this is for the what we call our K2C and K2F sewer basins. So in this picture, I-26 is to the top of the page. This area is kind of bounded around the Johnson City Mall and Science Hill High School. So I-26 here on the north, and then West Market Street bounded to the south. So we talked about most of these. The one thing I will mention, though, is we are working in coordination with the First Tennessee Development District for a couple different EDA grant opportunities. So on the water side, we actually have a water treatment grant opportunity that has both ARC and EDA grant components to it for replacing the existing high service pumps at our Watauga water plant. And then also on the water distribution side, we have submitted an EDA grant application for a new transmission line up Knob Creek Road from the presidential streets, and then it would turn at Sunset, and then Sunset up towards the new food city. And then we're in the process of submitting another grant opportunity on the wastewater side at our Brush Creek plant. Would involve both the replacement of the return and waste pumping and piping on site. I promise I'm almost done.
Oh, shoot, if this were Witherspoon, we'd just be getting
I
started.
know, man. So obviously, we've had a series of master plans we've talked about and had work sessions over the last few weeks. We're working right now on prioritizing and finalizing what we call our FY 2026 to 2029 capital improvements plan. So that would be the list of debt-funded capital projects for that timeline. That list is currently underway right now. What I do show here is 3 critical facilities that will be on that. So what on the left is our largest water treatment facility at Watauga, Brush Creek wastewater treatment plant, and then also Knob Creek wastewater treatment plant. So obviously we're working on the list now, but all 3 of those critical facilities will have portions of that plan. And then force account. So force account is our in-house city construction crews. So if you see anything on here, it's SE is a sewer extension, SR is sewer replacement, WR is a water replacement, and WE is a water line extension. So kind of just a couple to mention here. And this is just a snapshot of a few of the ones that they've done over the last calendar year. But Glaze Farm Phase 1, our guys successfully did an extension to serve the Glaze Farm subdivision off Carroll Creek Road. If you see here, Cross Timber Drive, there was some remaining galvanized water lines that were off of kind of that Cross Timber subdivision right off of Kingsport Highway, Roan Street. And then one here to mention too is our Knob Creek wastewater treatment plant, which is off of Austin Springs Road. Our crews did a fantastic job actually doing some bridge stabilization there for erosion mats that they installed right at the access road into the plant. Just a couple pictures to mention from our in-house construction crews. And then kind of in progress or staging. The main one to mention here is the top 2. Obviously, like I mentioned, in early calendar year 2025, we'll have construction crews on site in West Oakland Avenue. So the first portion will actually be the 12-inch water line extension, and then we'll work in coordination with Public Works for the sewer line extension to the south of the new road. Any questions?
Real quick.
Yeah.
All those first projects you were showing us, what is the time frame of that? Is that the next 5 years, or maybe I just missed that, or
At the
is that
very
next year?
So a little bit of both.
Okay.
So obviously we have kind of different, we have the ones we just completed in this calendar year. We have ones that we have are currently under construction kind of, and then we have ones that I hope to advertise in calendar year 2025.
Okay.
That was the 3rd batch. Then there's another batch, which is kind of 25, 2026, 2027, that kind of time frame.
So a whole lot of digging going on.
A lot of digging going on,
Yeah.
but try to be very proactive with how we plan it.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good
And the
job.
water lines you replaced on West Walnut Street were, what, 1915?
Yes, the
1920?
water lines on West Walnut Street were turn of the century, so right around 100 years ago, 1915, 1920s. The sewer lines replaced on West Walnut Street were 1940s. So like I said, we replaced 2.2 miles of water line that was turn of the century, and we replaced 1.6 miles of sewer line that was, 80, 90 years ago.
We get our miles, we get
Yeah.
our money's worth.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Time.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Trivett?
Mayor, that's all we have tonight to discuss on the
Okay.
agenda.
Well, I'll make the traditional rounds. I'll start with Commissioner Fowler. Anything to add?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Brock?
Well, we have the Christmas parade this Saturday.
Yep,
Everybody going to be there?
absolutely.
Yeah, so invite all the citizens to come out. I'm not sure what the temperature is going to be, but I hope it warms up just a little bit. But a lot of good things going on. We, of course, have the lighting of the Christmas trees this past week, and it's just beautiful downtown. So hope you'll join everybody down there to celebrate.
Great. Commissioner?
Really, I'm just honored to be here and to serve our community and really to be with you guys and look to y'all's leadership and past Mayor Fowler and really past Mayor Brock and everyone that.
The wise.
The wise,
Yeah,
to-
we've got a lot of past mayors.
be patient with me and teach me some wisdom along the way, and just thankful to be here and have y'all's support.
Great. Commissioner Wise?
I just want to acknowledge that our marching bucks that will be on our parade this Saturday did a dry run of their performance for the big parade last week in New York and represented Johnson City very well. I think they're going to be up to the standard for the Johnson City parade. So they were soaking wet. They did not wear their ponchos, and it rained the entire time. So by the end, they were just like drowned rats, but they sounded really good.
Did their uniforms recover then?
I haven't had a uniform report, but they were soaking wet at the end of the
Did
parade.
they shrink?
I don't know. I think they're polyester. I don't know that polyester shrinks.
Well, I failed in the last thing here. Mayor Hunter, how's that sound? Congratulations, and look forward to your leadership. It's going to be a challenging year in 2025, and we all need to pull together and get through it and work on behalf of our constituents. So look forward to working with you.
Thank you. You know, you show up late one time. And lost a lot, lost my seat for 6 years, and, you know, Commissioner, or Vice Mayor Cox, you may not realize this, but before you came on board, I claimed to be the youngest
And it really got
commissioner.
old.
And you've taken that from me too, but, you know, seriously, I'm deeply honored to accept this role and to serve our community in this capacity in our city council form of government. And the strength and authority really lies with us as a unified body. You know, the mayor is, the role of the mayor is not one of any greater authority or privilege, but of collaboration and representation. I'm committed to upholding the legacy of past mayors to ensure our meetings are conducted with respect and order, and by representing us in the community when called upon to do that. But together as a united commission, we've got a great future ahead of us. So appreciate your all support, and if there's nothing else, we'll adjourn the meeting.